A very warm welcome to Africa. Good morning. You are in the company of Aina Raizakweo and Ashwin Mberi. We are broadcasting the news making headlines across Africa. Now today is opposite day.
Yes, you know, opposite day. I don't like money. Opposite day is the worst day for not saying anything to people far away from you. It's the best day to talk to people close to you. It's the best day to just, you know, have fun and understand that the most important thing you can do is that, you know, join everybody else in the fun. Here's a video on opposite day.
Welcome back to Africa. Good morning. In our top stories, a fight causes more than 100 deaths. More than 100 people, including Kurdish fighters and Islamic State jihadists, have died in the last 4 days following clashes triggered by a terrorist attack on the prison in Syria, the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights reported yesterday. Now, according to the OSDH, the clashes began after an attack by jihadists on Thursday night on a prison in Garayan in the northeastern Syria, one of the largest and where the jihadists are being held in the country and which is guarded by Kurdish forces. About 70 jihadists and 39 Kurdish fighters were killed and 7 civilians, says the OSDH, adding that clashes continue with Kurdish forces supported by international coalition air force, and as a result, thousands of people have fled their locations.
In our second story, more than a dozen dead in Yaoundé blaze. At least 16 people have been killed in a fire at a popular nightclub in Yaoundé, Cameroon's capital, the government said. The blaze was caused by fireworks used in the club. The fire engulfed the main room of Live's nightclub in the capital's upmarket Bastos district, home to embassies and diplomatic residencies. Authorities said the fire spread to a place where cooking gas was being stored. Investigations to find out the names and nationalities of the dead and the wounded are underway, said government spokesman René Emmanuel Sadi. The incident comes as the country hosts thousands of football players, fans and match officials from across the continent for the month-long African Football Cup of Nations tournament. In a statement, Cameroon President Paul Biya called for calm and assured AFCON players and fans of their safety.
Taliban will maintain authoritarian conduct. The Taliban government has the right to detain and put opponents in prison, including women who demonstrate without authorization, a spokesperson said yesterday, despite distancing himself from the recent disappearance of 2 activists. Since taking power in August, Taliban authorities have been dispersing opposition demonstration, beating journalists and detaining regime critics. This week, 2 women were kidnapped days after they took part in a demonstration in Kabul, according to women's rights advocates. The United Nations Assistance Mission in Afghanistan yesterday asked the Taliban to provide information on the fate of the 2 missing women. Now, speaking to France Press, the government spokesperson denied that they had been arrested. However, the government has the right to detain and put in prison opponents or those who violate the law. He added that no one should create disturbance as this harms the public order and peace.
In our next story, Burkina Faso President Kabore detained by mutinous soldiers. Burkina Faso's President Roch-Marc Christian Kabore has been detained by mutinying soldiers, according to news reports citing security officials. The reports on Monday came a day after soldiers staged mutinies at several army barracks, prompting fears of a coup in the conflict-hit country. Later on Sunday, heavy gunfire was also heard near Kabore's residence in the capital, Ouagadougou. Several armored vehicles of the presidential fleet, riddled with bullets, could be seen near the residence on Monday morning. One was splattered with blood. Two security sources and a West African diplomat told Reuters news agency that Kabore was detained at a military camp. There was no immediate comment by the government, which on Sunday had denied that a coup was underway. Al Jazeera reports that the mutinous soldiers had yet to release a statement. EEC
owed 50 million to switch off lights. It could be lights off for several entities as the Eswatini Electricity Company is owed millions and government is the main culprit. The parastatal has already announced that it will undertake a disconnection exercise and it has been gathered is owed 50 million. In the past, the public was deprived of government services such that in Mankanye, all government establishments were for a week without electricity in recent years. EEC Marketing and Communication Manager Kaya Mavuso said that in the most instance, the government has been having the highest outstanding balance with the EEC. Impeccable sources have said if it were not for the many small commercial and domestic companies on the prepaid system, the company would have not been able to keep afloat as most of the money that is needed to be reinvested was with the government. Resources related that the failure by the government to settle its area dating over a decade back was to the disadvantage of the country in terms of investment in renewable energy and improving infrastructure of the EEC.
Now in Malawi, mob kills 3 over witchcraft allegations. Police in Kanta Bay district have instituted investigations to arrest suspects who killed 3 elderly people, a male and 2 females, in the district over witchcraft allegations. The incident followed the death of Lyson Sopole of Mbale village in the district, a teacher at Chonanga Primary School who died mysteriously on January 21 this year, a few months after being employed. The death raised eyebrows of his relatives who attributed it to witchcraft, saying the mentioned victims had bewitched him. In the evening of January 22, 2022, just before burial of the teacher's remains, the angry relatives went on rampage, invading houses of the accused people, and they killed them. Following the report, a team of police officers was immediately deployed to the scene, but on arrival, the perpetrators had already escaped.
In our next story, short shelf lives see poor nations decline millions of COVID jabs, says the UN. Between October and November, 15 million European Union donated doses were rejected, 75% of the AstraZeneca shots with a shelf life of less than 10 weeks upon arrival. Poor countries refused to take around 100 million donated COVID-19 vaccine doses in December alone, mainly due to their short shelf life, says the United Nations. The World Health Organization has slammed the deadly moral shame of high-income countries hogging vaccine supply, then offloading near-expiry doses to jab-starved poor nations. The United Nations Children Fund uses its vaccine logistics experts to handle delivery flights for COVAX, the global scheme set up to ensure a flow of doses to poor countries. In December, there were nearly 100 million doses that have been refused because of the country's capacities. UNICEF's Supply Division Director Atleva Kadili told the European Parliament Committee.
All right, now I like to travel just as much as the next person, but this may not be the way to do it. Stowaway found in South Africa plane wheel at Amsterdam Airport. Dutch police say they have found a stowaway alive in the wheel section of a plane that landed at Amsterdam's Schiphol Airport from South Africa. Flights from Johannesburg to Amsterdam take about 11 hours, with the cargo plane believed to have made one stop in Nairobi, Kenya. It is very unusual for stowaways on long flights to survive due to the cold and low oxygen at high altitudes. The man's age and nationality have not yet been determined, police say. The man was found alive in the nose wheel section of the plane and was taken to the hospital in a stable condition, Royal Dutch Military Police spokeswoman Joanna Helmans told the AFP news agency. A spokesperson for freight carrier Cargolux confirmed in an email to Reuters that the stowaway had been on a flight operated by Cargolux Italia. It is not known if the man boarded the plane in South Africa or Kenya.
In our next story, Me Too wave in Morocco over sex for grades scandal. Female Moroccan university students have broken their silence about professors demanding sexual favors in return for good grades, a scandal that has shaken the higher education system. Testimonies have flooded social media in the style of the #MeToo movement, encouraged by activists in the conservative North African nation, where victims for sexual violence often keep quiet. Hassan I University in Settat near Casablanca, where one of the survivors was eventually readmitted after alleged undue expulsion, is now embroiled in a scandal involving 5 professors. One was sentenced to a 2-year prison term in months for demanding sexual favors for good grades in the first such verdict, while 4 others are due to face court. My case was not an isolated one, said Nadia. Other girls suffered similar things, but no one wanted to listen to us. In recent years, several similar cases were reported by local media, but failed to elicit official action. But then on social media, campaigners shifted the conversation, raising awareness of the magnitude of the problem. The turning point came when screenshots were published online, said to be messages in which professors demanded sexual favors from female students. More accusations against university lecturers began to emerge online. Now, nearly 70 complainants were also filed at the Asadi University in Tautona, but have so far failed to provoke a response from the university's administration.
Now in the last of our top stories, Angolans in Congo to receive identity cards. The consulate in the departments of Ponta Negra and Kwilu, Republic of Congo, began the official delivery of identity cards already issued to the Angolan citizens residing for several years in the 2 districts. The Consul General of Angola in Ponta Negra, Samuel Andrade Cunha, said that the civil identification post has 374 identity cards issued out of the 632 requests made by the compatriots in the region. The consulate adopted the opening hours from Monday to Thursday in the morning for the reception of the processes of issuing BI, and Fridays reserved for the delivery of the document. Since the installation of the civil identification post of the Angolan consulate in Ponta Negra in December 2021, the process has proceeded smoothly, with the continuous receipt of documents for the issuance of the BI, aiming to process ballots and birth certificates, whose objective is to grant Angolan citizenship to compatriots who have lived in the region for many years. All right, that brings us to the end of our top stories. Now, Sonia Smith won an award for her report on infertility. We'll be talking about that after the break.
Welcome back to Africa. Good morning. Now, NMH's Yana Marie Smith chats to award-winning investigative journalist Sonia Smith, who won the Mac Foundation Award for her report on infertility. And here is their conversation.
Sonia, thank you so much for joining us today. You were recently awarded first place in the 2021 Merck Foundation Africa Media Recognition Awards, More Than a Mother. This was for an article you wrote titled The Agony of Infertility. It outlines the often heartbreaking struggles that women face to conceive. What inspired you to write this story?
Yana, I've actually heard many stories about my friends and even, strangers talking or sharing stories about their struggles to actually conceive. And these struggles often happens in silence, as we know that infertility in Namibia is an issue. It's something, or it's a topic that is people hardly speak about. So that's basically what inspired to write or to work on this story.
How do you, as a journalist, approach interview subjects and get them to open up like this?
Yana, I think sincerity is the key here. No sensationalism. Going in there, it's just basically creating a space, a safe space for them to share their stories. Making them also, feel comfortable in sharing their stories, in sharing their experiences, sharing what they are going through with me. So, and it's not even about exploiting, and taking advantage of what they are going through or their situations, but basically, making sure that what they are going through is nothing that is out of the ordinary. There's a lot of women, not just in Namibia, but across Africa and the world, that women are going through the same issue. It's just that it's not being spoken about, and that's where integrity actually comes in. To be able to be comfortable with me, to speak and trust me about what they are going through, and make sure that by sharing those information. It also means that getting into their privacy, but also at the same time, just trusting me to make sure that I will do a better job at reporting on that.
What for you was the hardest part of the story?
I think, Yana, it comes to, to bring a topic into the public eye that people, hardly speak about, and that people only whispers about it and, speak, in a lower voice when, talking about infertility, whether it's sharing your experience with someone close to you or even a stranger. So for me, to bring a topic like this actually in the public was something big for me. And the fact that these people, trust me to talk about their issue, it was something out of the ordinary, because it doesn't happen all the time, for someone to just, you walk into their space and you're asking them about, all these weird questions about them not being able to bear children. It's, so, for them, with that trust, at the end of the day, I think the most rewarding things was that they were very happy with the outcome of the article. They were very pleased with the way I've approached the topic in general. And I think what do you call it? The reaction when the story came out, the reactions from the public was also something like, I've noticed that even on social media, a lot of women were coming out to the fore, explaining that they are also going through the same experiences, and that it's not something that is that should be, one should be ashamed of, and that the public shouldn't do that to other women, because those who are blessed with children, some of them are also, not taking care of the children. And then you find these women that really want to bear children and want to experience the love and just that affection of being a mother. and they are not able to do that.
Sonia, you have for quite some time now been writing quite incisive, in-depth stories that are clearly backed by a lot of work in the background. And you've written about corruption, governance, hard-hitting human interest stories like this one. For you, overall, what are the costs and what are the rewards of journalism?
Marie, I am driven by humanity. I really care about, I care about other people, and I would like to make a difference in my work, whether it's I want to do that in all kinds of stories I do, whether it's an investigative piece on corruption. It should be some sort of bring some sort of impact, to the community or to the country. But human feature stories are telling stories about, things that, people are being deprived on, and some sort of things. But I think it's easy for me to wake up in the morning, to chase after stories or to go and shoot or do interview or to talk to people, because this is what I love.
So thank you so much for sharing this. And I think also for other journalists, the younger journalists, we can all learn something from you and the dedication you have to your work. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you so much for this an opportunity also to share my story as a journalist and to inspire those that are only coming up now. Thank you very much. It means a lot.
The My NA Property Show provides viewers with the best-in-class property content, from looking for the perfect house to transforming it to the perfect home, with focus on interior designing, transforming your garden into a tranquil haven, to going green and having the funds and security of financing and insurance. The My NA Property Show has it all. Tune in and make your house a home with our monthly My NA Property Show on Wednesday evenings at 6:30 on all the NMH Facebook platforms and our website TV channel 1up2, 1up2.com.
Thank you for staying with Africa. Good morning. It's time for us to take a trip to Zimbabwe and have a chat with Talent Gore. Good morning, Talent. How are you?
Without glitter beans and with those found in bridge-facing fines
Good
up
morning,
to
Talent. Can you hear us?
All public.
We seem to be having issues crossing over to Talent. Let's get straight into our next story. Now, the headmaster of Cape Town-based Bernardina Heights, Dion Wertheim, and Vincent Hockey, the headmaster of Caribe Private School, shared their stance on the public release of grade 12 examination results. What's your take on that, on the releasing of grade 12 results publicly?
No, it shouldn't happen.
Mental health, right?
Mental health comes first. It's going to cause a lot of depression.
Yes.
And, social media, people always tend to judge the children. They laugh at the children.
It's
and the
such a
children
vulnerable space for them.
end up committing suicide. It's not healthy. I'm not for it. It shouldn't happen.
Yeah, let's hear the discussion from two custodians of education.
The country, the world over, everybody's experienced an extremely stressful year, 2 years, because of the unprecedented, the COVID situation and the pandemic. So yes, it's impacted in all walks of life, but it's impacted on education. It's just had a huge, major impact, and you can pick it up also in terms of the children's mental health, educators' mental health, parents. It just caused so much anxiety, different reasons, are we going to finish in time? The backlog that was there, the work that the learners missed, trying to complete a syllabus or a curriculum within the space of time that we do under normal circumstances, and now with the times curtailed by half. It's been extremely stressful, lots of high levels of anxiety. But I think humans are such that they adapt and they find the best way and to resolve things and so. Yeah, but it's not ideal. It's difficult.
Yeah.
Look, yes, it became a matter of a court case, which the education department had to backtrack because of the ruling of the court. The education department, the National Education Department, used the POPI Act to justify why they didn't have to print. The court ruled. So, as was the status quo in the past, newspapers, media, other media platforms, the social media, and so has now permission by virtue of the ruling of the court to print the results. As in the past, the results is now printed. The learners or the candidates' examination number is reflected there, not the name, as in years gone by where the name was the name and surname. Now it's the candidate's number. That appears under the school's name, obviously. Yeah.
Yes.
The trick results being used as a barometer, to determine, rightfully or wrongfully so, how successful a school is. That is used as a barometer. So you're nervous, you also have that anxiety. Though I'm quietly confident because of the amount of effort that we've put in our teachers and the systems that we have in place, that we will still maintain the high standards that we have achieved throughout the years. Touch wood, one never knows, because COVID's been a big game changer. Yeah. But I can tell you, yes, they're going to come back. They've already been phoning, wanting to know what the arrangements are. So we can only, by virtue of the Education Department's ruling, release the results at 11. I've asked my kids to come in with their parents at 12, so that we can do the screening processes also. We should never forget we're still in the middle of a pandemic. And it also gives us time to process the results. And then once we've processed that results and we've done, so we can go to them with the statistics when we release them per class. This is how you feel, so forth. So that would then conclude their school career effectively tomorrow. Yeah. And hopefully there's a reason for celebrations. Yes. Yeah.
My name is Vincent Hockey, and I'm the headmaster of Kariba Private School. Now, my personal view regarding the publishing of the NSSCO and AS level results in the newspaper is that it should not be done. The reason for this being the fact that this is a personal issue. Many learners are not mature enough to deal with the negative criticism that may come from their peers as well as from the community should they perform poorly. This can lead to depression, a feeling of unworthiness, and even shame. And in some cases, it even leads to suicide. This, in short, is my stance on this issue. Thank you.
That was an interesting, informative, and indeed important conversation. Something else that's important to, keep an eye on is the weather. Check out the forecast up next.
In April 1980, in Lusaka, Zambia, our founders came together and formed the Southern African Development Coordination Conference, which later, in August 1992, in Windhoek, Namibia, transformed into the Southern African Development Community, SADC, following the signing of the SADC Declaration and Treaty. Through SADC, our founders envisioned a region that would collectively advance the cause of national political liberation, paving the way for economic integration in Southern Africa. True to the dreams and aspirations of our founders, SADC has made significant strides towards development, peace and security, and economic growth through regional integration and cooperation. Over the years, the membership of SADC has increased from 9 in 1992 to the current 16 member states, bringing a unique diversity of states in mainland Southern Africa and the Indian Ocean. The increased membership has not only demonstrated the willingness of member states to cooperate in addressing issues of importance to the region, but has expanded SADC's footprint on the African continent while creating a larger market for goods and services within a population of 340 million and a combined GDP of $720 billion. Since its establishment, SADC has consistently shown unwavering solidarity and unity against the many challenges the region faces. The SADC region was at the forefront of the global campaign to end apartheid in South Africa, which led to the independence of Namibia in 1990 and the collapse of the apartheid system in South Africa in 1994. Today, SADC is a stable and peaceful region with an expansive market, a youthful population, and a conducive environment for investment. SADC's solidarity and commitment to deeper regional integration has been demonstrated by the signing of a total of 33 protocols covering a wide range of sectors including agriculture, food security and natural resources, infrastructure, industrial development, trade, investment and finance, social and human development, peace and security. Added to these protocols are instruments and policies which include the Regional Indicative Strategic Development Plan, Strategic Indicative Plan for the Organ on Politics, Defense and Security Cooperation, SADC Industrialization Strategy and Roadmap 2015 to 2063, SADC Regional Agricultural Policy, and SADC Regional Infrastructure Development Master Plan. Together, these protocols and instruments have laid a strong legal and policy framework for promoting regional cooperation and integration in various sectors. Over the years, SADC has continued to improve facilitation of movement of persons as well as goods and services across the region. The removal of visa requirements for most SADC member states allows SADC citizens to freely travel to any SADC country. With the SADC recognized driver's license, SADC citizens can drive to any SADC country without having to acquire another driver's license. The one-stop border posts which are being established along some of the transport corridors within the region, together with the harmonized road transport regulations, have all eased movement of people, goods, and services, thereby saving time and reducing transport costs for travelers. At the same time, SADC member states have become more and more interconnected through regional rail and road infrastructure, making it easier for business operators to transport goods across borders. In addition, the SADC Real-Time Gross Settlement, RTGS, a regional cross-border multi-currency payment system, is helping to ease cross-border payment and in the process, promoting intra- and inter-regional trade. SADC has over the past years front-loaded industrialization in the regional economic integration agenda. And through the implementation of the SADC Industrialization Strategy and Roadmap 2015 to 2063, numerous opportunities are opening through the promotion of value chains. The SADC Industrialization Agenda is motivating the region to diversify regional economies, develop productive capacity, create employment, and build a more sustainable growth path for the region. By utilizing the vast agricultural and mineral resources of the region, adding value to the products will go a long way in realizing the full potential of the region's abundant natural resources. To support the SADC industrialization drive and enhance regional integration through energy infrastructure development, the region continues to cooperate to increase energy production and distribution. In this regard, the region has established the Southern African Power Pool, which has continued to connect member states to the regional power grid, thus providing an interconnected electrical system in the region, resulting in increased power supply and its accessibility to industries and rural communities. In terms of gender and women empowerment, the establishment of several institutional frameworks, including the SADC Protocol on Gender and Development, has contributed to increased number of women in decision-making positions and several interventions to address gender-based violence. In addition, more girls are now attending school and graduating from universities and colleges, thereby reducing their economic vulnerability and paving the way for women and girls to realize their full potential. About 70% of the population of the SADC region depends on agriculture for food, income, and employment. To avoid the region's cherished plants going into extinction, the SADC Plant Genetic Resources Center in Lusaka, Zambia, has continued to preserve hundreds of plant genetic resources as a means to improve agricultural production and ensure food and nutrition security for the region in the years ahead. SADC continues to cooperate in preserving shared resources such as water and other natural resources through river basin organizations and trans-frontier conservation areas across the region. The conservation of the region's abundant natural resources and wildlife has made the SADC region one of the most preferred tourist destinations in Africa and the world. In the process, the tourism sector has generated billions of dollars and created thousands of jobs, making tourism a vehicle for socio-economic development. Through the work of the SADC organ on politics, defense and security cooperation, internal conflicts have been resolved. The region has witnessed smooth and democratic transfers of power, and a substantial progress has been made in the fight against transnational organized crimes, armed groups, and other security threats. All these efforts have made the SADC region one of the most peaceful and stable regions in the world. In the years ahead, SADC will continue to build on the successes made so far. Guided by the SADC Vision 2050, SADC envisions a peaceful, inclusive, middle to high income industrialized region where all citizens enjoy sustainable economic well-being, justice, and freedom. One region, 16 nations, working towards a common future. Together, we are strong.
It certainly is an exciting time to be a SADC resident. Thank you for staying with Africa. Good morning. It's time for us to get straight into your economic news stories, and we start off in Mozambique as heavy goods vehicles want discount on ring road tolls. The Federation of Mozambican Road Transporters has threatened that the price of goods carried by trucks will increase unless heavy goods vehicles are given a reduction at the toll gates that will come into operation on the Maputo Ring Road as from 1 February. Baptista Macovele, the FEMATRO deputy chairperson, said the toll will be added to the cost of the transporters and should thus be passed on to the end consumers. He made the extraordinary claim that the toll would push the price of salt to about 20 or 30%. There are discounts, but only for passenger vehicles and for regular users of the road. Passenger transport vehicles enjoy a discount of 75%. Thus, the toll for a bus is 35 rather than 140 meticais. The minibuses that provide much of Greater Maputo's passenger transport will pay 10 meticais instead of 40. But the operator of the ring road, the company Revimo, mostly owned by the government's roads fund, has no intention of offering a discount to trucks. Tolls are intended to raise funds for road maintenance and repair, and since it is heavy goods vehicles that cause the most damage to roads, they should bear a substantial share of the repair costs. It is also a long-standing government policy to shift goods transport from road to rail.
In our next story, debt to GDP weight reduces to 74.8%. The weight of Angola's debt in relation to gross domestic product is on a clear downward path, settling at 74.8% this year against 126.9% in September 2020. Banco de Fomento Angola is the financial operator with the highest level of domestic debt. The financial risk rating agency Fitch Ratings, which on Saturday released the report on the Angolan economy, writes on the website that Angola should in 2023 see its debt drop more to 73% after having been in 78.5% at the end of 2021. These achievements open excellent perspectives to reach the recommended 68% of debt in relation to gross domestic product, an indicator of greater confidence for international investors and capable for bringing more foreign investments.
Now, in Eswatini, labor stakeholders are saying create jobs for graduates to boost PAYE. Stakeholders in the labor sector say government should create jobs that will absorb graduates who will contribute to pay-as-you-earn tax. Eswatini News reported that government presented a plan to create 9,055 jobs this year from new and existing investments to be introduced in the country. The Labour Force Survey of 2021 reported that overall unemployment in the kingdom was 33.3%, which was an acute increase from 23.4% recorded in 2016. This report stated that youth employment was at 58.2%. Economics scholar and University of Eswatini lecturer Sanele Sibia said government was always announcing that jobs would be created. The scholar also said government needed to share the specifics of the nature of jobs that were being brought into the country because low-paying jobs like textile factories had minimal impact. An economist who gave his scholarly opinion on condition of anonymity said government needed a guideline to create quality employment aligned with the curriculum in schools. He said promising jobs that were not in line with the policies set limited the exploitation of the graduates.
Eskom wants single buyer function back. The Electricity Supply Corporation of Malawi has said proceeding with giving single buyer functions to Power Market Limited would head Malawans through high electricity tariffs. Eskom board chairperson Frederick Changaya, PML would require management, staff members and even a board, which would entail more money needed for the endeavor. Changaya said Malawans would also pay the price of having PML through increased electricity tariffs. Malawi has dragged in terms of development because of poor decisions. Why would we have the whole parastatal with management and board to be doing clerical work which is already being done for Eskom? He said that PML does not have all the measurement equipment such as meters, and the measuring is done by a system and market operator which is under Eskom. He added that leaving an independent PML to buy power from independent power producers would lead to a situation where PML would be agreeing to buy power at a higher price than consumers can afford.
That brings us to the end of our economic news stories. Up next, economic indicators. Thank you for staying with Africa. Good morning. It's time for us to give you your sports news, and we start off with AFCON results. Guinea unfortunately lost to the Gambia 1-0, and Cameroon got the best of Comoros with 2-1. I'm sure all the home fans are very, very happy about that. Now, in our next sports news story, SA star Lizelle Lee crowned ICC Women's Cricketer of the Year. Proteas women's opening batter Lizelle Lee has been honored with the 2021 ICC Women's One-Day International Cricketer of the Year accolade. The right-hander scored 632 runs in the 50-over format last year, averaging a whopping 90.28 in 11 games with 5.5 centuries and an unbeaten ton as she helped South Africa to second spot on the ICC Women's ODI rankings. Lee has remained on the top of the Women's ODI batting rankings on 761 points in front of Australia's Alisa Healy and India's Mithali Raj. Lee and her Proteas teammates will set their sights on the Women's Cricket World Cup to be hosted in New Zealand from 4 March to 3 April this year.
In our next story, Mboma signs off in style. Christine Mboma gave Namibian fans a farewell treat as she swept to victory in the women's 200 meter at the Windhoek Grand Prix in Windhoek on Saturday. She took the lead from the start with her trademark strong finish, left the rest of the field trailing in her wake to split the tape at 22.30 seconds, with Nandivas coming in at 24.82 seconds and Joanna Lageres in third place in 25.27 seconds. Her time was well below her personal best, which is 21.78 seconds, but she expressed satisfaction with her performance after the race. I feel great being able to start my season with that time. I'm just looking forward to start my season very well. My personal best is 21.78 seconds, and I will push hard to try and break it this year, she said. Her performance sent a buzz of excitement throughout the crowd, and she was mobbed by eager fans for autographs and photos after the race, which was her last one in Namibia before she leaves to compete on the international circuit towards the end of March. This was my last race in Namibia this year. I'll be doing a lot of international races this year, but I just want to thank my Namibian fans for their love and support, she said. Bombers coach Hank Botha expressed satisfaction with her performance.
All right, now in the last of our sports stories, in the last minute, Comoros keeper became available for the Cup of Nations clash. Comoros Islands goalkeeper Ali Ahamada returned a negative COVID-19 test and was available to play on Monday against host Cameroon in the last 16 of the Africa Cup of Nations finals, officials said. Comoros were on the brink of being forced to field an outfield player in goal for the biggest game in their footballing history after a COVID-19 outbreak in their camp. All right, that brings us to the end of our sports stories. Unfortunately, his return didn't actually help because they still did lose to Cameroon, but it's better than having a striker in the goalpost, I'll tell you that. Yeah. Stick around, we have your highlights after the break. Every weekday from 7 a.m. Africa Good Morning broadcasts live and brings you news from the African continent and beyond. Now, if you perhaps missed our top stories at the top of the hour, or if you need a recap, worry not, here are some of the headlines. Fights cause more than 100 deaths. More than a dozen dead in Yaoundé blaze. Taliban will maintain authoritarian conduct. Burkina Faso President Kabore detained by mutinous soldiers. Heavy goods vehicles want discount on ring road tolls. And in sport, Comoros keeper became available for the Cup of Nations clash right at the last minute, but unfortunately it did not change their fate as they still lost to Cameroon 2-1. Those have been our stories.
Thank you very much for joining us on this edition of Africa Good Morning. We do welcome your remarks regarding our show. You can email them to us. Our email is agm_2centsworth@nmh.com.na. Alternatively, we are on Facebook and Twitter. That's at Africa Good Morning. We also have a website which is called One Up To. Please visit us for more content that you love to see. And on that note is all my love, all my light.
Swera Jaganaka.